Power does strange things to people, you know what I mean? Give someone a badge, a little authority, a crowd that's too tired to push back, and suddenly they start believing the world exists to be corrected by them. That's how it started with Officer Travis Kincaid, and that's how a rainy grocery run turned into the most expensive mistake his city ever made. Yeah, that actually happened, and I was the man standing on the wrong end of his ego. It was just another afternoon when I walked into Lakeside Market, rain tapping against the glass doors like it had nowhere better to be. I wasn't in a hurry. At my age, you learn rushing only makes things worse. The lights inside flickered the way they always did, that soft buzzing that sinks into your skull if you linger too long. I grabbed what I needed, Earl Grey tea and a couple cans of salmon pate for my cat Booker, and headed for the self-checkout because the regular lines were backed up. I've never liked those machines, but you adapt. You always do. I scanned the tea beep, scanned the cat food beep, dropped them into my canvas bag, and that's when the screen flashed, "Unexpected item in bagging area," like I'd personally offended it. I tapped the screen, waited, sighed, the kind of sigh you earn after decades of watching technology promise convenience and deliver irritation. That's when I noticed him. Officer Travis Kincaid leaning near the exit, arms crossed, vest spotless, watching the room like he was waiting for something to happen. And I knew before he even moved that something had just happened in his head. A young clerk named Lily came over, cleared the error in seconds, apologized the way people do when they're used to apologizing for things that aren't their fault. I smiled at her, thanked her, slid my card in, and the receipt started printing. That should have been the end of it. But Travis pushed off the pillar and walked over with that deliberate stride cops use when they want you to feel small before they even open their mouth. "Everything all right here," he said, staring straight at me. "Not Lily, not the machine, just me." I told him it was fine, just a glitch, and kept paying. He leaned closer, said the machine flagged an unexpected item, said that usually means someone's trying to slip something extra in. Lily tried to explain, bless her, but he shut her down without even looking at her. And that's when I realized this wasn't about groceries. This was about control. I tore the receipt off, slowly, held it up, told him I'd paid and was heading home. He told me he didn't ask for the receipt, told me to open my bag, told me to dump it out right there. People were starting to look. You could feel that familiar heat in the air, the kind that crawls up your spine when you know you're being put on display. Lily said again that she'd seen me pay, and he snapped at her, said it was a police matter now. That's a phrase that's meant to shut people up. And most of the time it works. I told him no, calmly. I told him I'd completed my transaction, that I was free to go, and unless he was detaining me for a lawful reason, I was leaving. I took one step toward the door. Just one. And that was all it took. He grabbed my shoulder hard, harder than necessary, like he wanted to remind me whose hand it was. My cane clattered to the floor, and something in my shoulder lit up like a match. I told him to unhand me, told him he was making a mistake, and I meant every word of it. But men like Travis don't hear warnings. They hear challenges. He told me I was under arrest. Started listing charges like he was reading from a menu, yanked my arm behind my back in a way it wasn't meant to bend anymore. I told him I wasn't resisting, told him the receipt was in my hand, and he slapped cuffs on me anyway, tight enough to make my fingers tingle. "Tell it to the judge," he said, and if irony had weight, it would have crushed the room right then. He shoved me toward the door, into the rain, into the back of the cruiser without a second thought. Windows down, radio loud, water spitting in through the metal mesh, while he lectured me about people like me thinking they deserve a pass. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I just memorized everything, the time, the place, the way he handled me, the way he ignored evidence. Old habits don't die. They just get quieter. At the station, he marched me through intake like he was proud of himself, slapped my bag on the counter, told the desk sergeant he caught me skimming and that I got aggressive. I asked for my phone call and told them the cuffs were too tight. That nerve damage would be another problem they'd have to answer for. Travis laughed, called me a jailhouse lawyer. I told him where I earned my law degree and how long I'd served on the bench. I said my name, and the room changed. Not silent, but softer, like the air itself was listening. The sergeant hesitated, typed my name into the system, and her face drained of color. She pulled the receipt out of my bag, stared at it, stared at Travis. He doubled down, said being a former judge didn't mean I hadn't stolen today. Said I was confused. That's when she called the captain. And before he even arrived, the front doors opened and in walked Malcolm Vance, a lawyer whose suits cost more than most people's cars, calm as a lake before a storm. He asked for me by name, checked his watch, and said every minute I was held without charge was adding zeros to a number no one in that building wanted to see. The captain came down the hall like he'd been dragged out of a fire, opened the cell, apologized. He started to say it was a misunderstanding, that the officer was new, and I stopped him right there. I asked him if not knowing I was a judge was really his defense, because what that meant, plain and simple, was that if I'd been anyone else, this would have been fine. He didn't have an answer. Malcolm steadied me as I stood up, and the pain in my shoulder made itself known all over again. The hospital confirmed what my body already knew. Torn rotator cuff, deep bruising, the kind of injury you don't bounce back from overnight. Back at the precinct, Travis was put on leave paid, smirking like he'd won something. He thought it would blow over. He forgot about cameras. He forgot about witnesses. He forgot about the difference between being protected and being right. 3 days later, the lawsuit landed on the city's desk, and suddenly everyone wanted to talk. Civil rights violations, false arrest assault. The number was big, but the story was bigger. People didn't just get angry, they got embarrassed, and that's worse. Travis panicked, called a friend, and evidence heard that the body cam file was corrupted, but the store footage had been subpoenaed. So he did the dumbest thing a man in his position could do. He went back to the store, tried to lean on Lily, tried to scare her into helping him make the problem disappear. He talked about memories being funny, about videos vanishing, about making life hard for people who weren't friends. What he didn't know was that Malcolm was already there, recording everything, watching Travis dig his own grave in real time. When the police came for him later that night, they came quietly. No sirens. Just doors opening, cuffs clicking, neighbors watching. He said he was doing his job. The officer arresting him told him he'd threatened a witness and cooked himself. The rest wasn't fast. It was slow and public and humiliating. Depositions, video footage played on big screens, crystal clear. Me paying, me offering the receipt, him slapping it away. Then the recording of him in the back office talking about deleting evidence. The city tried to settle cheap. Malcolm said no, tried again. Finally, they listened when I spoke. I told them this wasn't about money, that dignity doesn't have a price tag, that the only reason we were there was because I was who I was. If I hadn't been, I'd still be sitting in a cell. Malcolm slid the terms across the table. 1.3 million. No pension. Public apology. Real oversight. They signed because they were afraid of what would happen if they didn't. Travis lost everything. Badge, career, reputation. He tried to find work, any work, and discovered the internet doesn't forget. Last I heard, he was pushing carts, doing day labor, living a smaller life than he ever imagined. And me, I didn't celebrate. I let that check sit on my desk for days untouched, because it wasn't a reward, it was a receipt. So I used it to build something that might keep the next person from standing where I stood, something that would make power nervous again. Now here's where I want to hear from you. Was that enough? Losing comfort, losing status, losing a career, is that justice when someone was so quick to take another person's freedom? Or should there have been more prison time, maybe? Real consequences that feel like the ones he handed out so casually. And if you've ever watched someone get targeted for looking wrong in the wrong place, tell that story. Put it in the comments, talk about it. Because silence is how this stuff survives, and stories like this, uncomfortable as they are how it starts to crack.